tell you all about it when I see you again.
Today, we're taking a look at the life and legacy of incredibly talented actors who unfortunately left us too soon, but are not forgotten. On January 22, 2008, the entire world mourned the loss of 28-year-old Heath Ledger. His body was found by his masseuse and housekeeper on the floor of his rented apartment in the Soho neighborhood of New York City. Emergency crews arrived soon after, but unfortunately, they were unable to revive him. There was a lot of media speculation about his possible illegal usage of substances over the next 2 weeks, which only added to the sadness surrounding his passing. Eventually, on February 8th, the New York City Medical Examiner's Office released the results of the toxicology test performed on Ledger. The report revealed that he died of an accidental overdose of prescription medications. After memorial services in New York and LA, Ledger's family took his body back to their native Australia, where he was cremated at a private funeral service attended by his family. Even though his death is attributed to accidental overdose, what's often overlooked is a complicated and dark path that led Ledger to self-medication. Unfortunately, his struggles were misunderstood by many in the mainstream press, which only adds to the tragedy of his passing. He earned an Oscar nomination for Brokeback Mountain and delivered a remarkable performance in I'm Not There, a movie inspired by Bob Dylan. And of course, he will always be remembered for his chilling portrayal of the Joker in The Dark Knight. But behind the scenes, things were far from perfect. In 2007, Ledger's relationship with Michelle Williams came to an end, and he moved to Manhattan, where he became a favored subject to New York tabloids. While these tabloids portrayed him as a young, carefree actor who enjoyed partying and hooking up with models, the truth was much darker. In a New York Times profile published a few months before his passing, Ledger opened up about the challenges that came with his acting career. He admitted that he stressed out too much while playing his role in I'm Not There, and he was not proud of his performance. During the interview, Ledger was in London wrapping up The Dark Knight, and he revealed that playing the Joker was particularly draining for him. He described the character as a psychopath, mass-destructive, schizophrenic clown with zero empathy. To get into the right mindset for the role, he locked himself into a London hotel room for about a month and experimented with voices while keeping a diary. During all the craziness of preparing for this intense role, Ledger was having a tough time sleeping, like seriously tough. He told the New York Times that he was only getting about 2 hours a night, which is basically nothing. He just couldn't get his mind to shut off, and his body was beyond tired. One night, he was so desperate for some shut-eye that he took an Ambien, but even that did not work. He ended up taking another, but still could not fall asleep. And it wasn't just the lack of sleep that was getting to him. He was also dealing with the end of his relationship with Williams, and he missed her and their daughter terribly. With so much happening, his family understandably was worried about him. In fact, his sister had even warned him not to mix prescription meds with sleeping tablets, but Ledger was convinced that he knew what he was doing and that he would be fine. After finding Ledger's body, the masseuse immediately contacted Mary-Kate Olsen, who was a close friend of the late actor. However, some people speculated that Olsen may have been involved in supplying the drugs that caused Ledger's death. Olsen faced additional scrutiny when she declined to cooperate with the DEA investigation, demanding immunity from prosecution. It also raised eyebrows that Olsen sent her own security team to Ledger's apartment instead of contacting the authorities directly. Ultimately, the U.S. Attorney's Office prosecutors concluded that they do not think it is feasible to pinpoint a potential culprit in regards to who gave Ledger the pain medication. Ledger's death left many of his co-stars feeling that he had so much more potential that was never realized. Joel Edgerton, who worked with Ledger and Ned Kelly, said that Heath was an incredible person with a big heart and so much potential. Mel Gibson, who played Ledger's dad in The Patriot, also expressed his sadness, saying that Heath's death was a tragic loss because he was just getting started in his career. Actor Jonathan Zarin talked to New York Post about Ledger's depression, but still found it surprising that he took his own life, saying that Heath was always nice and gave him good advice about acting. It's sad to think that he never got to see his performance on screen. His portrayal of the Joker won him the Oscar in 2005. Wish you were here, Heath. You are greatly missed. Moving on, most of us grew up with him and loved watching him in movies like Hook and Jumanji. He always had a way of making us laugh in every role he played. And he also made us cry in movies like Good Will Hunting and What Dreams May Come. I learned more from Professor John Keating in Dead Poets Society than I ever did in my own college. He also showed us his darker side in movies like 1 Hour Photo and Insomnia. But regardless of the role that was played, he was always there with us. He was a staple in the industry and an amazing actor and person. He had this aura about him that even if you were having a bad day and bumped into him on the street, he would be there for you. He just radiated life and happiness. I, of course, am talking about the one and only Robin Williams. Despite his infectious smile on screen, things were not always easy for him personally. In fact, he struggled with some personal demons throughout his life. Back in the 70s and 80s, he developed a cocaine addiction that he only kicked after his friend John Belushi died of an overdose the night that they partied together. It was a real wake-up call for him. But even though he got off of drugs, he started drinking heavily in the early 2000s, which landed him in rehab. He was battling depression as well. It's tough to imagine, right? Despite all of this, he kept up with his amazing work on screen. But then, in the early 2010s, he got some terrible news from his doctor. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. He shared the news with his wife and children, but they decided to keep it private for the time being. Besides this diagnosis, he was still struggling with feelings of anxiety, paranoia, and depression that he couldn't fully explain. To figure out what was going on, he and his wife had planned to go to a neurocognitive testing facility, but sadly, he never had the chance to go. The night before Robin Williams passed away, his wife, Suzanne Schneider Williams, saw him in a peaceful mood, playing on his iPad and seemingly getting better. When she said goodnight to him around 10:30 p.m., he replied, "Good night, my love. Good night, good night." Later that night, Robin relocated to a different bedroom, where he passed away. The next morning, Robin's personal assistant found him dead at 11:45 a.m. Suzanne had already left the house, thinking her husband was sleeping. But the assistant became worried and decided to pick the lock on the bedroom door, where they discovered that Robin had taken his own life. What's really sad is that nobody knew what was ailing Robin Williams until after he passed away. It was only during his autopsy that they found out that he had Lewy body dementia, not Parkinson's. This disease is still not well understood even today. It's heartbreaking to think that such a talented man was struggling with something that he could not even understand himself, which is why he was so frustrated trying to figure out what was going on with his body and mind. There's a quote by Robin Williams which I often think about. It goes, "I used to think the worst thing in life was to end up all alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people who make you feel all alone." Rest in glory, Mr. Williams. Next on our list is a bona fide superstar and a real-life hero whose portrayal of King T'Challa in Black Panther gave Marvel Studios its first Oscar nomination, met with an untimely death at just 43 years old. It was so shocking to hear that Chadwick Boseman was no more. He had been battling colon cancer for years, but he kept it private from almost everyone, including the directors of his last movies. Can you believe that he was still filming and giving an amazing performance while undergoing surgeries and chemotherapy? He left us with amazing performances portraying Black icons like James Brown, Thurgood Marshall, and Jackie Robinson. He was a beacon of hope to so many, and he hoped to inspire future generations. The new Black Panther movie, Wakanda Forever, plays tribute to both T'Challa and Chadwick Boseman in a beautiful way that left me reaching for tissues. The movie honors his legacy and the impact he had on the world, and it's the best tribute we could ask for. Chadwick did not only revolutionize the superhero industry, but he was a true king off-screen, known for his kindness and generosity towards others. One of many stories that exemplify this was shared by Trevor Reese on Twitter. Reese described Boseman going out of his way to assist a struggling Black actor, offering him advice on navigating the industry as a Black man and helping him understand what it's like to work in this field. Reese started his thread by praising Boseman as an incredible man and recalling their chance encounter at the Samuel French Film and Theater Bookshop. There, Boseman was quietly browsing for new plays when the young Black actor approached him to initiate a conversation. Reese shared that Boseman spent 30 minutes speaking with the actor, taking the time to provide him with advice and insight. Boseman purchased a few plays for himself and recommended additional books to the actor, which he then had held behind the counter for him to collect later. Reese concluded by acknowledging that Boseman did not seek any recognition for his actions, but rather was driven by a desire to ensure that the actor had access to the resources he needed to succeed. What a man. Wakanda forever, rest in power, Chadwick. So which of these actors was your favorite? I'll be covering more actors who left us way too soon in the next couple weeks, so make sure to check in and follow up on all of our latest updates and videos. And if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave a like and do subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. Until next time.